Oh, or Trump and Bibi on the outs is just more of like look over here while all these other things are going on over here kind of thing.
In this block, interestingly enough, one of the stories is titled Trump Turns on Bibi Netanyahu.
Hmm.
Although it can also be read Trump turns on Bibi Netanyahu, which is a whole different context. And if you count in Rabbi Shmuley and his provocative toys that he offers freely, then, I don't know. Anyway, I stopped my mind from wandering because I didn't like those pictures too much, none. And I was like, oh, I read it wrong. And it went, Trump turns on Bibi. All right. So there's two stories. One is from Luke Radowski. You guys might have heard him. He's from We Are Change. And the next one is going to come from Jimmy Shut the Garage Door because he left it open last night and the cat got out. So Jimmy is going to bring to us, probably with Kurt, Trump dumps Bibi. Now, these are claims. Luke's story is called It's Over, Our Greatest Ally No More. It would be a shame if the same thing happened with Great Britain. I don't know what's going on with these breakups, but hopefully we can keep the New World Order together because they've been working together for a long time. We're several series into this this narrative arc they're laying out. So we'll see. Will they break up? Because it doesn't make any sense that Trump's pushing all these anti-Semitic laws in America and he's breaking up with Bibi unless he's just jacking the whole thing. Bibi's from Philly. Maybe it's like Trump figured out he could be president of Israel. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. We can't judge the evidence until we observe it because to do otherwise would be ignorant. So let's go to Luke Radowski and then we'll go to Jimmy Dore. Then we'll come back and also, before we cut to this block, I need to tap out. I've been up too long. I'm getting a little loopy. I want Howard to be welcome. You can hang out with Scott and Paul and you can cruise. We also have a special feature maybe playing later, and we have LD to play us out. So don't go anywhere just because I've been up like since I got up at 5:55, but Home Depot doesn't open until 8 on Sundays. So we had to go to Lowe's and we were like finishing grout. There was a lot of stuff going on today. And I did Q&A and then I went back and did more stuff. So I'm tuckered, but I don't want to ruin the show just because I'm tired right now. So you guys
Richard,
have,
since you're leaving, can I be in
yeah.
charge?
No, certainly not, Howard. Nice. I appreciate the forthrightness of asking like so directly because that's so you. But you
I,
also have to
I
appreciate that I had to learn at one point to say no sometimes to you. So I'm saying Paul and Scott are in control and you can ride along. You're like riding shotgun, watching out for, New World Order zombies trying to attack them in a kung fu type situation.
You can
I'm on it.
attempt a coup, but then you can ask the chat how that usually goes, and it doesn't usually go well.
First off, very few coups are asked for. So,
Yeah.
hey man, can I take over?
Usually, when the chat runs a coup, they just get doubled down with their punishment.
It's very
All right,
polite.
audience, you guys are in good hands. There's going to be a lot more funniness and wittiness now that dude, I'm frazzled right now. So I know when to say when, and I'm man enough to say I got to tap out. So I'm going to go get some sleep. I'm going to go kick ass for a whole another week. And, man, we played with the wood chipper this week. We didn't get Fargoed or anything. Like there's all sorts of new experiences. I was cutting circles with a tile saw yesterday. You ever do that? Because the tile saw is straight. To cut a circle is like
Yeah, you got
you
to
gotta you
score it.
gotta work at it. Yeah, Scott knows all
You,
about
you
these
score
things.
it. You just do the scoring thing, and then you break off the little pieces.
My brother came up. We were working together, and I said at one point to Lisa, I said the difference is I read 1,000 books and he renovated 3 houses. So
Yeah.
sometimes I have to, even though he's my younger, I'm like he knows what to do next. So I'm just
Instead
helping
of
out.
instead of trying to like angle the tile through it, you just draw your circle, and then you
Yeah.
cut like imagine this is like the circle.
I
You just
tried
do
to plunge
cut,
it, but I couldn't get
cut,
the safety
cut,
stuff to come off the
cut,
tile
cut,
saw.
cut. You just do a
So
series of
I
cuts,
just
and then you
kept
snap
I
them.
just kept like zipping it out so you had a perfect circle and like
There
took
you
out
go.
the
They have
sharp teeth
tools
and
that
stuff
do it
like that.
too, but yeah.
But it was a first day tile cutting for me. And there is a Polaroid because I had a big poncho on because you get sprayed with stuff the whole time.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah,
it's
that's a lot of fun.
dangerous work. It's dangerous for DIYers because pros have better safety mechanisms in place.
Yeah, but those
They
blades
don't use
though,
rickety tables. They use ventilation.
those diamond blades don't really cut your fingers though.
Well, I didn't try, but
You can put your finger right
I
on it.
was conscious a couple times when tiles snapped that like my finger just traveled 3 inches. I didn't think it was going to travel and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I'm s- I'm bragging,
Don't
not
test
complaining.
that. Don't test that, chat.
Don't test it. These are not recommendations from Handyman Scott.
Yeah, no, do not get your fingers near the
Scott has all his fingers.
I do. Those are some of my most valuable assets. So, yes.
Hey, quick, for the guys in the audience, they make those new hatchet saws now. They're like 8-inch chainsaws. You can hold them with one hand. They're very convenient. But here's the fun fact for everybody. When you use chainsaws, you wear Kevlar, like chaps and gloves and stuff like that, which works on gasoline-powered chainsaws. If you have an electric-powered chainsaw, the Kevlar doesn't stop. It doesn't get tangled up and stop. Like it doesn't choke out because it has too much torque. So now the next generation of electric chainsaws has like the built-in like safety features, but right now they're still pretty like Wild West dangerous. So be careful out there when you guys are doing your home projects. That's my public service announcement for the week. And also be very, very careful using those wood chippers because Fargo's no joke, dude. Like people get sucked into those all the time, not paying attention, getting their feet tangled, stuff like that. So we survived. And tomorrow we got a sawmill being put up in the driveway. We're gonna cut some logs into dimensional lumber.
Really? Oh, that's
and then we're building some of the furniture. So we got all sorts of activities.
that's some real cowboy stuff, right?
It is cowboy stuff. That's right. That's right.
Awesome.
So you guys have fun. I got to get some shut eye. Thank you guys all for tuning in, not dropping out. Here's the rest of the show. These guys are going to play you out. Peace. Good night. Peace in the Middle East. Ha. Like they're going to have that happen anytime soon. All right. Good night.
Oh boy, Donald Trump definitely has been busy lately, as of course he plans a major trip over to the Middle East that is really pissing off one of our very close allies. As some people are mad and some people are happy. What's really going on here? As of course, Donald Trump is talking about this being one of the most important trips of his presidency, as it looks like he's going to be bringing forth a new peace proposal for all of the Middle East. What's really going on here is there's one country that's not too happy about these proceedings, that they might actually be left out of, as of course they are not participating in what Donald Trump wants them to do. What's really going on here? What are the bigger ramifications? Well, let's just get right into it, as of course the battle begins for peace in the Middle East, really. Something that of course is a very difficult task to achieve, but if there's anyone up for the job, it's probably the United States, the number one hegemonic power with the power of the petrodollar and sanctions and advanced military tech. There's a lot of wheeling and dealing and bargaining to be done here, especially since, Henry Kissinger went over to the Middle East and set up the petrodollar system that we are currently under right now. As Donald Trump is saying that he's going to be visiting a lot of countries, but one country that he will not be visiting is Israel.
We have a very special guest with us. Katherine Austin Fitz is here. She's an American investment banker who served as managing director of Dillon Read and Company and as the United States Assistant Secretary of Housing and Urban Development in the George H.W. Bush administration. That's the first George Bush. I remember that, George W. Bush. A lot of people say Israel got him pushed out. She co-authored a report in 2017 alleging that $21 trillion in unauthorized spending by the U.S. Department of Defense and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development over a 17-year period. Now, of course, that's all crazy talk. That didn't happen. She's making it up. The government takes good care, is a good steward of your money, and they would never do something that is just... Anyway, welcome to the show, Katherine Austin Fitz.
Thank you, Jimmy. It's a pleasure to be on.
So before we get into, I'm going to bury the lead, and we're not going to talk about that right away. I wanted to, because this just broke today, and I wanted to just get your opinion since you worked in the George Herbert Walker Bush administration, and of course everybody's following what's happening with Israel, Palestine, and Trump and Netanyahu. So we know that, well, it says Trump cuts ties with Netanyahu over manipulation concerns. And comes from Israeli army radio, says that the United States president has cut off direct contact with Benjamin Netanyahu amid growing bilateral concerns. Now, we know he fired Waltz because Waltz was using a secret Israeli app they were right in his office, right from the Oval Office. Waltz supposed to be advising the president on national security, and there he is on a Signal app that's used secretly. Was a secret app just for the Israeli intelligence, and so he was a spy.
Yeah, it's some crazy stuff. Like just this last week, hearing about the tide turning, the shifting, the allegiance kind of dissolving. And I was listening to something today when I was driving back about the whole Waltz situation, which is really interesting. And like this all kind of stemmed from that Signal chat where that journalist was somehow inadvertently added to the group chat, and then it was the big scandal about this secret military stuff. But then, like, as it's kind of unfolded, it kind of sounds like this Waltz guy is like an Israeli spy, really, is what it sounds like, which is just crazy. And there's a few things too, like, and I didn't know about this until just today when I was listening to this, but then they switched over to this other app instead of Signal called Telemessage. You hear about this whole yeah. And I was like an Israeli messaging app that then got hacked, and they were able to go back and like access all the previous conversations. And then Mike Waltz's wife, what's her name? Julie Neshawat, whose sister, Jeanette Neshawat, was the one that was supposed to be in line for the Surgeon General position. And so she was removed as well. So it's like Waltz got removed, and then his wife's sister. So it's like this family, and then, you know, there's no concrete evidence that she was up to anything, any foul play or anything, but it's like their whole family got booted out of the administration because, like, maybe, I mean, the speculation being is like maybe they are just a bunch of Israeli spies. Like, but it's interesting too how they're handling it. It's like, okay, well, if he is going behind the back of this, how Etienne's just cringing over here, all this stuff. It's like, yeah, but it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like all this political stuff, but it's like, but still, it's interesting how normally, like, this could be seen as like treason. Like, this is like literal treasonous stuff, right? In that paradigm. And so, but instead of handling it as a person who is being charged with treason, they're just moving them to like cushier positions. Like Waltz is like now the ambassador to the UN or something like that. Like, okay, so what are we really doing here? So it's really interesting, though.
So I just want to say off the thing that I don't believe that reporter was let into the Signal conversation by accident. I think that if what happened there is they got everybody talking about, that they were coordinating on Signal versus the fact that we just bombed Yemen for Israel, number one. And number two, the whole thing was kind of made you look, because you're like, oh, what's in the Signal chat? And if you go in the Signal chat, it's the administration talking points. And so they got everybody to look at essentially what was the administration's talking points about the attack, and then got everybody arguing over Signal instead of the fact that, hey, we just completely went to war 100% unconstitutionally, in something that benefits Israel, who forget Russia interfering in our elections. The government that's interfering in our elections is Israel, to the tune of hundreds and hundreds, if not $1 billion+ dollars. And then we send them, anywhere from 3 to 20 billion a year. And it's going up in the past couple of years. It's an amazing amount of money. And they're openly installing, Congress people in the American government. They gave Trump, Miriam Adelson alone, $100 million. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, where Trump is saying, hey, I'm your best friend. This is the real election interference. Forget Russia. It's Israel.
Yeah, it looks like they have got a whole operation going together where it's like Mike Waltz accidentally lets this journalist from The Atlantic, the most like unfriendly toward like most deep state water carrying newspaper that's out there essentially. And a lot of people, instead of focusing on the fact, it's like, look what we just did. They're like, let's just change what the focus of the narrative is.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's what the recent oh, are Trump and Bibi on the outs is just more of like look over here while all these other things are going on over here kind of thing. It's a bait and switch, or like it's like magician move, right? They're trying to draw our attention away with one story that's ultimately not hugely consequential, while all the massively consequential things are happening just behind the scenes. And yeah, when it comes to Israel, like I think there's a long sordid history of people either being bought off or blackmailed or threatened into working with their the country, their intelligence establishment for all kinds of reasons. So ultimately, I think a lot of these stories are meant to be both political theater, divide and conquer, but also like look over here and don't notice this thing over here.
Yeah, one other thing that I think is interesting about Israel and the Trump administration is, that Israel really is kind of a Rothschild, created country. And, that's essentially what the Balfour Declaration exposes. And so, Rothschild and Company did Trump's bankruptcy workout, years ago, where they saved Trump. The guy that did the workout for Rothschild, essentially refinanced his debt, gave him new lines of credit, kept his creditors at bay, was what was it? It was I'm drawing a brain lock on it, but it was the Secretary of Commerce in Trump's first administration. And so I think that Rothschild has had Trump by the short hairs ever since that bankruptcy workout. And I think that not too many people talk about that connection. Trump's essentially an actor. He's a worldwide wrestling personality. Does anybody here know who his theatrical agent is?
Oh,
Trump's theatrical agent is Ari Emanuel, who is the brother of Rahm Emanuel, who was the chief of staff in the Obama administration. He was the mayor of Chicago. He's the guy that said famously, you never want to let a crisis go to waste, because a crisis is the opportunity to do something that you couldn't do otherwise. And then the other Emanuel brother, there's three of them. Ari is the show business, theatrical agent to the stars. Rahm is the politician, and then Ezekiel Emanuel is a eugenicist and a bioethicist that was on Biden's COVID-19 task force, and has essentially written a book saying that everybody should just kill themselves at age 75. That you shouldn't live past 75, and if you're alive, you're a bad person because you're living past 75. It's quite the crew. And so he's tied up in Israel on all of these different levels, from working for Zionist studios, Zionist theatrical agents, representatives in his administration. And so I think that that this thing with Netanyahu is just acting, because I think they have him by the short hairs.
or even his family, like Jared Kushner. I mean, he's like,
Mhm.
he's born, by blood now, basically. The new dynasty. It's crazy.
Yeah, the sons have Jewish wives too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude. Like they got him. It's so interesting. So I saw a meme, and I was going to ask Rich about this. Maybe you guys know some of this, but I saw a meme that basically was comparing the similarities between JFK and Trump around this, where they were saying how JFK kind of pandered to the Israel lobby, like speaking at pro-Zionist organizations, and then just basically really leaned into, garnering their support going into his election. And then once he got into office, he kind of turned on a dime, and then we know the whole story about the foreign agent registration, all that fun stuff, and the nuclear weapons. And so kind of like he used them to get into office and then kind of turned on them is kind of the way it was characterized. And then it was kind of making the comparison that that's what could potentially be what's going on here, where, obviously Trump leaned heavily into the Israel lobby to get into office. And then is this really him pulling in JFK and being like, okay, APAC? Like I saw like tweets today, like saying Trump's going to get rid of APAC. I'm like, oh boy, really? Really? We'll see. I mean, we'll see, but I might start trusting the plan if this starts happening. Right? I don't know.
Well, I think part of the whole thing is they want us to think it's a Zionist or again, with all these like, look over here, but don't look over here. I'm sure they want us to overrepresent Zionism as more than just a cog, but it's the whole machine. And I think the whole machine is the brainwashing, like, system from cradle to grave, essentially. Like you're saying earlier about how it's, a brainwashing program to essentially get everyone to be on a tax farm, right? So that we'll give a percentage of our energy. And that's like essentially a protection racket with extra steps, right? So we don't complain or we even celebrate our so-called captors and act like they're benevolent rather than malevolent.
Well, I mean, I think it's the banks at the top. I mean, so the tax farming is without a doubt, worth a lot of money to them. But the main tool of control is the ability for banks to create money out of thin air, loan it at interest, and manufacture digital dollars, even though that's inflationary, even though that's stealing the value out of everybody else's money. That's the jewel in the crown. That's also, Rothschild's business, banking, central banking, fractional reserve banking. And so, but like, I really do think that so we're using statism as a technique to control the government, but the government is allowing us to engage in fractional reserve banking and banking. They're buying up the world with the little paper tickets. And then the way that I see it is that ownership is being held by asset managers like BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, and others that are holding the ownership, and then the C-level executives are being organized into organizations like the World Economic Forum, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg Group, and other kind of front groups and policy shops. But that ability to create money out of thin air, that's the jewel. A lot of people in the United States, they're not paying their taxes. So there's 40, 50, I've heard as high as like 60 million people that aren't paying. And I think one of the reasons why they're going to tariffs is that there's so many people that aren't paying, and there's so many people that know people that aren't paying, that they're kind of losing control of that. And it's much easier, I think, to tariff importers and exporters than it is to go after people that aren't willing to pay their theft to the IRS anymore.
Very good point. Man.
Yeah. Go ahead, Scott.
No, I'm good. Go.
I was going to say that just feeds into another reason where it's like every 50 to 80 years they seem to implode that current version of the system so they can upgrade to a newer version, or maybe that other one is a Ponzi scheme that just runs out the way it was designed to. And so I feel like the Real ID, digital ID system is about, they've created all these different crises, right? Like the Emanuel brothers would want. And whether they're genuine crises or manufactured, the solution is being presented from all the sides. The left and the right are all saying, hey, we need some kind of like reinforced identity confirmation, and we also are going to need to tie it to these other things, right? Like our bank accounts and healthcare and all these things.
Well, also it'll be your online presence. So you'll have to like ultimately that's why the scanning of the retina, the WorldCoin is trying to get all of the retina scans, is they want your digital persona. They want to be able to turn off people on the internet at will. They want to have programmable money. They want to have a social credit score. But those, I think, are the long-term goals, and I think that the real ID is that stepping stone to, to the internet and the social credit score, and being able to debank, people at will as well.
Yeah, and if we know that the people who are kind of running things, if debanking to them is like totally palatable option, right, for behavioral modification, then finding out that all these people are kind of linked together, we're being presented this story that like Elon Musk and Donald Trump are at odds with these different guys, and like Mark Carney and Donald Trump, they're at odds. Meanwhile, Brookfield Asset Management bailed out Jared Kushner's brother Joshua and his company. And so it's like they're all doing business with each other on this grand level, but it's all behind the scenes. And yeah, like professional wrestling, it's presented to us in this like good guy, bad guy, pick which side you want. And sometimes they'll switch sides. But at the end of the day, they're all going out for beers together. While we are like, we're entranced by this storyline and feel like we're a part of it because we get to vote for the rotating levels of gangsters that make themselves available. But
They pretend to let us elect them.
yeah,
I mean, the Carney Trump connection, and then Elon Musk too. Like they're all kind of, we covered that a few weeks ago, how they're all kind of intertwined. It's like even becoming more conspicuous, just out in the open. That is all just theater. That they're all just working in cahoots behind the scenes, but people just are divided.
it
So
goes
my
back.
thesis,
Oh, go ahead.
my thesis with Musk is twofold. Is number one, I think he's DARPA's boy that takes technologies that have been invented on the taxpayer nickel and then privatizes the profits for, kind of DARPA and NQTEL kind of insiders. And then also because he's been made to be the wealthiest man in the world, going back to my example from earlier of, people looking at the highest status monkey. So they put him on top of X where, it's Elon's tweets all the time. And so, they're being able to steer human perception by taking the highest status monkey and giving him, and Trump. So like Trump has a social network platform. Elon Musk has a social network platform. Zuckerberg, they're able to kind of steer human perception using this, this high status monkey, people's innate biological desire to look for and even pay for with their attention and their time, looking at pictures of higher status monkeys. We're steering human perception using behavioral psychology.
It's really interesting because that's one of the pieces I think we're going to close with tonight is a film called Star Suckers. I think we're going to do at least part one. And they get into the psychology of how children are indoctrinated to desire above all other things this fame culture where they think fame, the concept of just being well known, clout, all these things are the way towards success more than good work ethic or effort or ethics, any of these things. They're like, fame will solve all my problems. Money will come, everything will be solved. And reality TV, the rise of reality TV in the last 25 years has been this thing that made fame a little more accessible. Social media, now you can reach out to your favorite celebrity and kind of talk to them, kind of have more of a connection, right? So it's like, in a way, turned it into like, I don't want to call it a religious experience, but in the process of like celebritism, they're trying to get you closer to your deity, as it were, right? So you feel more connected to the
Your idol.
That's right.
Your idol.
It's really interesting too because it looks like this maybe was put out, a few years ago, but what's emerged in our current modern culture is the idea of like the influencer culture. So now it doesn't even really take that much to get 100,000 people on Instagram, and all of a sudden, poof, you're an influencer, quote unquote, right? And there's people I know. I have friends who have kids that are like high school level, and they talk about how like some kids, their career goal is to be an influencer. Like that's just like that's their career path, And so the idea of the celebrity is just so diluted now. where it's just anybody. If you just make one silly little viral video, all of a sudden, poof, you're a celebrity. And in that world and all the ramifications of that. And so it's really interesting how, yeah, the progression of just, you had to be like a Clark Gable back in the day, and then could be a reality TV star, which made it seem a little more accessible. And now it's just, you can just, anybody, like, it's just right there. And then that creates, because there's a perception that now it's probably easier and more accessible. And then if you're not able to achieve that level, then it's just like, you feel like, oh, I'm just a horrible person. It's like, that's the state. If you're not if you're not a celebrity now, it's almost like you're not even worthy in our society, right? It's like, that's like the bar that's been set.
And with celebrity, like a lot of it used to be based on, okay, they were either a talented person or they were like exceptionally good looking or whatever, but they had something that made them stand out, right? Some kind of specialness that was the reason you were celebrating them. You're like, oh my God, this person's so amazing at sports or at stunts or at acting or whatever it is, right? They had put in effort and had like high skill in some field. And so that for that effort, they were being celebrated. And now, like we kicked off the show with two different people who are having an influence. One stabbed a kid and he's making $500,000. Another lady calls a thieving kid the N-word. She raises $500,000. And you're seeing the rise of what people call nuisance influencers, where they essentially go out in public and they prank people by like slapping them, or they do like not only unethical things, like straight out violent and illegal things, to the point of going to other countries and harassing people on the streets and filming it and live streaming it for money, and then using that to get clout, this like social currency that's really just like a bunch of people know who I am. So they think they have influence over those people, when a lot of these people, like, just as much as they get built up, they get torn down just as quickly, right? So just the whole celebrity culture thing, I feel, is like really toxic. Like
so one thing I thought was interesting, I was at the Conscious Life Expo and I was exhibiting there, and we had like our poster series up and everything, and right by our booth there was this influencer who was doing, she was one of the speakers at the event, and she was doing some like little promo photos and everything. And I struck up a conversation with her, and I go, I asked her, I go, do you ever cover politics? Do you ever cover anything, of substance? She's like, oh no, I don't do that. She's like, if you do that, you get your YouTube will block your views and downgrade your site. And so, like a lot of these influencers, they can never stray away from beauty or celebrity gossip or like whatever to any kind of real topic, or they get they all know that they're going to be marginalized. And so it's kind of goes back to the most powerful weapon is the control of perception. And if you can control what the people are seeing, and you can get them, to self-censor themselves on all things politics, it really is, that's why we're in the trouble that we're in.
Yeah. Man, I just need to do like a fashion channel, I guess. Then. Oh, that's my only hope of becoming an influencer. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I'd much rather be in the pit, in the trenches with you guys doing this than any other day.
I mean, to an extent, there's some people who look at us as influencers, sure, but we're not trying to influence people to spend money on bullshit. We're trying to get people to like value liberty and freedom and like taking ethical stances and rejecting the religious belief of statism or government control and all that entails, because like you said at the beginning, you can't just magically bestow rights that you don't have onto someone else just because they have a badge and a costume and a uniform. It's not supposed to work that way, and yet we have, and so much of society buys into that belief system and validates it. But it doesn't feel natural. If it did, then they wouldn't need to spend billions of dollars propagandizing to us day after day to reinforce these notions, right? It's a constant battle of time and attention that they have to spend to try and keep us corralled because our natural tendency, I feel, is to break out, is to try and escape, is to resist and create countermeasures in all these different ways of not wanting to be corralled. We'll see how that battle goes, right? It's all about caring enough to learn these things, because I think what they've learned in the last 6,000 years is that comfortable farm animals are much easier to take care of than uncomfortable farm animals who are like trying to escape the farm all the time. If you're on a comfortable farm, you're gonna be like, hey, it's not so bad. This water's not so bad as a frog. It's not that it's getting a little warmer. It's not a big deal.
You know what I try and emphasize to my sons is, there were kind of two kinds of slaves during the days of chattel slavery. There were slaves, and then there were people that were enslaved. Okay, and the difference between a slave and someone that is enslaved is somebody that is enslaved is trying to escape. They're trying to get free. They're trying to figure out how to get to the north. They're saving, their hardtack and food, and they're stealing the master's clothes off the, clothesline so they'll have something to wear on the trip north. They're trying to network with other slaves on other plantations to figure out, how do you get on the Underground Railroad? Where is my first stop going to be? They're trying to learn how to read, like that's the difference between somebody that's enslaved and somebody that's a slave. There was in the movie 12 Years a Slave, there's a scene where they're on the boat, and they're kind of talking, there's three enslaved slaves and there's a whole bunch of other slaves, and they're mocking the fact that the other ones are just, they're not going to help because they're all broke back slaves. And so, it's like like to this audience and to you guys, I salute you, because we are the enslaved, that are stuck on this plantation with an overmount of pure broke back slaves that are too comfortable and too cowardly and too scared to do anything about their enslavement. And so a lot of people, they're willfully ignorant. They're pretending that, that this country is something that it's not, because if they were honest with themselves about what's going on in this country, then they'd have to do something about it. And it's just so much easier not to do anything about it.
Yeah. And if you guys want to break out of that slave mentality, see, I am going to try to influence you guys a little bit tonight. And if you want to get out of the bubble, you of course go check out the new Grand Theft World website, GrandTheftWorld.com, where you can become a member, because you guys, this show is literally brought to you for free, and it's brought to you by the community here. And so if you get value out of this show, join the community, return that value. I still have I pay for a subscription for it. I pay $10 a month, because I get way more than $10 a month value out of this show. And I really want to encourage you guys to do that. There's all kinds of bonuses and benefits in the bi-weekly town hall. Okay. If you want to like hang out and chat with Richard, you get the blueprint and all these. I mean, it's like you can't go wrong. Okay. So GrandTheftWorld.com, become a member. That's how this show is brought to you. And the more members we get, the more cool stuff you get out of it. And it's a really good, it feels good to support media that you get value out of. Okay. Telling you that. Then of course, if you really want to break out, I know season 13 of Autonomy is going on right now. I got to spend the week with Matt, season 12 graduate, all week. Super cool dude who's doing big things in his life, applying these skills. And then Eric, he's in season 13. He had to leave the festival. He's like, I got to go to Autonomy, dude. Friday night. He's like, I got to go to the lecture.
I'm a graduate.
Yeah. Etienne's a graduate.
I'm a graduate. And I was a professor one season.
Cool. Well, there you go. And so you guys can become graduates and then become a professor too. It's like I took some of these skills, and I what's really funny is you guys know about the whole clip genie thing. So I learned about how to do a pitch meeting, how to get on Richard's, if somebody you want to basically try and see if they want to purchase your product, you want to make them an offer, right? You get on their calendar, and then you set up a meeting, you get your pitch, you get your offer all lined up. And so I went in, I got on Richard's calendar. I'm like, I'm going to go give a pitch to the guy who taught me how to do pitch meetings. And so anyway, and it went so exceedingly well that it was in that pitch meeting that he was like, what do you do on Monday mornings, by the way? And I was like, I don't know, like build stuff. And he's like, well, we could use a co-host on GrandTheftWorld. So the pitch meeting went so good that I got a position on GrandTheftWorld. So that's, and it was from autonomy, guys. So it's like you take these skills out into the real world and you level up. So just go, if you want more freedom, if you want to escape what Etienne's talking about, that slave mentality, then there's a couple options for you. At the very least, go support GrandTheftWorld so we can keep bringing this content to you. But then also, of course, level up with autonomy as well. So.
Twice a year, I teach a course called Autonomy. It's a 12-week course. It teaches leadership, entrepreneur skills, executive skills, all these types of things that I saw were taken out of our education system in order to make the schooling or indoctrination system that we've all probably went through. And it has served us well enough to be interchangeable cogs in the machine of the globalists. But if we want a homestead, if we want write our own ticket, work from home job, work from anywhere type of situation, they're not exactly handing those out at the end of college. They give you a piece of paper and they're like, good luck. So reality is dropping us off here, but the demands of reality are up here. So I created Autonomy to help people close that gap for themselves so they can level up their skills to the demands of the situations that life is putting in front of us presently. Life's demands of intellect and understanding precision and complexity are ever increasing. The schooling didn't prepare us for it. The media is not going to do anything but reinforce what schooling prepared us for. And so we're going to have to take a leadership position and take steps off the beaten path to kind of blaze our own trail in life. What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and we can share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day, you could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. No.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man. Come on.